Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. You've been hearing very clearly from Republicans and Democrats who represent dealers that there is enormous concern about how they've been treated and the impact on communities. One area where there seems to be a dispute on the dais is whether this was a decision, each of these decisions on closing a dealer was made by Chrysler and GM, or was it orchestrated by the White House? And I know you were asked about that in the Senate hearings, and it's very important that it be clear who bears the responsibility here and accepts the responsibility. So, Mr. Henderson, let me ask you, is it in fact the case that the Treasury was not involved in any way in the selection or the development or guidance on the number of dealers that would be closed?
Could you repeat the question, sir? I'm sorry.
Basically, the question is who made the decision on how many dealers to close, in which dealers to close?
Management.
And that is you making that decision according to your best judgment about what was in the interest of General Motors, correct?
Yes, sir.
The Treasury was not involved?
Treasury was involved as a purchaser in making sure we had a properly sized dealer body, but they were not involved in individual decisions nor what the exact number should be.
All right. So you will acknowledge that that decision, whether it was right or wrong, is a decision that you made, not the White House?
Yes, sir.
All right. And how about you, Mr. Press? Same question?
It's correct. It was not made by the White House. It was made by our company, Chrysler.
Okay. So the basic question here is not just a matter of fairness, although I agree with my colleagues on that. It's a matter of business judgment. And somebody's right and somebody's wrong. You two gentlemen, on behalf of your companies, have come to the conclusion that closing down long dealers, including dealers in good standing who've done a good job for a long time, in some cases generations, that it's in the interest of the company to close them down. Is that right?
In our case, it's the only way we'll survive going forward.
And there's obviously a lot of evidence that's been presented to you at this hearing that those dealers are not costing you money, but actually can be a lifeline to re-energize sales in their local community. So you're going to bear the responsibility if, in fact, it turns out that you're wrong and they're right, correct?
Yes, we will bear the responsibility.
And on this appeal question, I mean, here's the dilemma that we have. The bankruptcy code is brutal. I mean, this man over here, his grandfather was in the business, his father was in the business, and had there not been the resort to bankruptcy, which was obviously made as a result of business situations that developed over decades, had there not been a resort to bankruptcy, you would have had to have a sit-down, face-to-face interaction with people that had been loyal, effective, and solid business partners for decades, correct?
The bankruptcy was caused by a market that ended and no credit. It was
not asking about the cause. Once you go into bankruptcy, all the rules that used to apply, contracts, agreements, relationships, are thrown out the window. The law allows it to happen, but it's the nuclear option, correct?
It was not a desire or a plan. It was a failed enterprise that stopped operating, and it doesn't exist any longer.
Right, and what it did is allow the court to throw out contract law that had applied, or state statutes that provided some equity between the dealers and the company. And here's the question. I mean, you're not responsible for what bankruptcy law is. This is the question, you and Mr. Henderson. Given the fact that bankruptcy is a brutal tool, in some cases it may be necessary, do you believe that that entity, in General Motors and Chrysler, which resorts to bankruptcy, for the best of intentions, I'll stipulate that for the moment, should bend over backwards on the side of giving the benefit of the doubt to dealers that have been loyal, effective, and largely profitable partners to the manufacturers?
I can't really speak on what the bankruptcy court should or shouldn't do. I can
I'm not
only
asking
say-
what they
I
should
can
or
only
shouldn't
say
do. I'm
our-
asking what the company should or shouldn't
The
do.
reason why we developed our approach to wind-down agreements was to try to handle this as responsibly as we could.
Well, bottom line here is the law probably allows you to do what you're doing. And I have no doubt that you've probably made a decision which you think is consistent with the exercise of your responsibilities. You've got tough jobs. But we've got a unique situation here where the brutal unfairness of the law is imposing enormous, frankly, unspeakable hardship on some pretty good people. And you'll acknowledge, I'm sure, that you're fallible and you made your best judgment, but that doesn't guarantee you're right. And the request I have of you is whether, in the exercise of your judgment, you will give the benefit of every doubt that can possibly be given to people who've been doing a good job for a long time.
This was not using the law. With great respect, I understand how that could be construed, but the fact of the matter is a new company was formed in our particular case, and a certain number of dealers with certain locations and certain brand representation were selected to go forward. The cause of this is that it became a failed enterprise.
Okay. I yield back.